I understood that firsthand. I experienced that firsthand. And so my interest is, more personal than any.
I appreciate that. And I really appreciate your professional background and that real connection between vacant homes and the life that the residents of those communities live. It's stunning how quickly that can also deteriorate as vacancy spreads.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The complaints by neighbors and them not feeling like, they had a stake in the game or they had a voice, and, just using that platform to really give them that voice so that they had a say so in, what would happen to those homes, and connecting them with government officials and different organizations in the community that could assist them with trying to get those houses back on the tax roll. But as you all know, that's very difficult under the previous system that we had.
Shante, do you foresee any conflicts of interest that may arise from you serving on this board and any other additional or other professional commitments that you currently have? And also, second part of that question, are there any time restraints that you may be restricted to serving on this board?
Yeah. So first part of your question, I don't think there'll be any conflict. I currently practice family law. So unless someone is my client, I don't think there will be a conflict there. And then the other boards that I'm involved in, which is like One West Florissant and Forward Through Ferguson, I think there's more of an alignment than there is a conflict, because we all are discussing the same thing, racial equity and, how to really revitalize and restore the neighborhoods. And then the second part of your question, repeat it one more time.
The
Time commitment.
Yeah.
Okay. My schedule is very flexible. I manage my own schedule. Some court dates I don't have control over. So if it's that, then of course I wouldn't be able to go away from that. I have to be in court. But other than that, I can definitely.
Do you have specific experience, specific skill sets, resources that you would bring to our board?
Yeah, so one of the skill sets, one of the many skill sets that I have is my ability to build relationships. I think that's very important. When it comes to this type of work, you have to build relationships with stakeholders, community organizations, government officials, as well as the residents who are directly impacted by the work of the land bank. And so my ability to do that has been, proven through all of the relationships that I do currently have. I was a previous employee of St. Louis County, and so I, have great relationships with people who are here already working in government. I've worked with council on a lot of different things, and then many other community organizations beyond housing. I was a previous employee there. I did that, worked there for 4 years, and then familiar with the municipal league and a lot of those mayors that are on the municipal.
Did you mention that you were on the Land Bank Coalition?
I was.
Did you know anything about land banking before you joined the coalition?
So I knew of land banking, but I wasn't really familiar with the inner workings of the land banking. I knew about the LRA in the city, and that a lot of people had a lot of negative things to say about the LRA. And so, connecting with Peter Hoffman and Rachel Waterman, they have done an amazing job educating me along with many others on the inner workings of how a land bank can be beneficial and how we can make this land bank look different than the LRA.
That was going to be my follow-up question. So what does the success look like for this newly formed St. Louis County Land Bank?
Yeah. So when I think about success, I think about 3 categories, right? I think about data, collaboration, and execution. So with data, we have to be able to figure out the why. Why do these properties exist? Who owns these properties? Where is the largest concentration of these vacant properties? Who's directly impacted by these properties? Those type of things. So data is very important in assessing the issue. And then collaboration, you know, who needs to be at the table? Who are the people that we need to talk to? Who needs to be involved in making this thing run? And then the third is execution. How do we execute this in a way that is culturally sensitive, but also taking into consideration the other factors that have contributed to the problem, the racial equity issue. And then, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, it's a political issue sometimes as well. So, you know, having to think about things from all of those different perspectives when we decide on how to execute things, I think is very important. So what success looked like to me is really taking all of those things into consideration and having people at the table that understand that. And even though they may not live in the community, that they understand the issues that are happening in that community when they're taken, and that's the forethought when we are making any decisions as it pertains.
You know, good response.
Okay.
I mean, DCE, data collaboration execution.
Yeah. Oh, I never put it in an acronym, but you know.
It's like now you got something to trademark or whatever.
Yeah, data collaboration execution. Yeah, you're welcome. And it's a trial technique too, just so you know, you do things in 3 so.
So this body is going to be is a public body. We are subject to all public sunshine requirements. But beyond even the normal requirements, I think that this board is also committed to the highest ethical standards. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on transparency and being a transparent government agent as well, quasi-governmental sort of agency, and sort of your philosophy and thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, you know, as an attorney, transparency is very important. So that's one of the cornerstones of how I practice, making sure that I am very open and honest with my clients, setting realistic expectations and saying, you know, you're coming in, you're wanting sole custody, but we may not be able to get sole custody, but also being able to explain that in a way that incorporates the law as well as the needs of the person. So, transparency, I think, is extremely important when it comes to service, especially in government. And I know sometimes that's not always something government does well. Just being honest and just from experience, but I think that this board could change that. I think that this board could be something that the community could look at and say, okay, I know what's going on. I know what's happening. I know what these people are about. And I'm on board and I'm invested in the process.
I appreciate that because I'm already impressed with, I think we're already starting to build trust as a board amongst each other through the last few meetings. But beyond the trust that this board wants to have, I also want to make sure that we're building trust with residents, that they know that even if you don't agree with every decision that the board makes strategically or even operationally, but also knowing that it's always done in a manner that is open, that it is rooted in trying to solve real problems and being able to have that trust with stakeholders, with communities, something I'm really committed to.
Absolutely. I mean, understanding that, you know, this vacancy issue has existed for so long and people are tired. People are tired of looking at it. They're tired of, you know, talking to people and nothing being done about it. And so, you know,
Taking care of it and not getting reimbursed.
and taking care of it and not getting reimbursed, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, you know, people are exhausted. And I think that they're looking for something to at least say, okay, something is happening. It might not happen tomorrow, but something is in motion. And I, you know, as a resident of St. Louis County, I've even felt that way, you know, get defeated sometimes, like, okay, well, you know, what else can be done? So it's restoring hope.
So this board is a founding board. So in a lot of, this is not you come in once a month for an hour, have a little bit of advice, and then walk out. At least it won't be that way for a while. Are you open to that level of work that's going to take? Because it's going to be, and it's both, to me, it's the exciting and daunting side of being in this role, this responsibility, is that we're going to have to draft the bylaws. We're going to have to create the skeleton for staff. We're going to have to find the staff. We're going to have to do the basics of getting all of our bank accounts and starting the accounting and all of these things. And that's not just going to happen at one meeting a month kind of decision. It's going to be a commitment by all 7 of us for a while. But what's exciting to me about that too is that then we get to start the culture of this organization. We get to start a strategic vision and a strategic outlook for this organization. So can you tell us a little bit about, do you have experiences and what have they been in helping set strategic plans, create strategic visions, and sort of help build organizations from the beginning?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind is when I went over to the county counselor's office and was working on the compliance team, which is basically like problem properties from the legal side. It was a brand new team. And it was put into ordinance by the council because of the vacant property issues. And they understood that, okay, well, we need to figure out a legal way maybe to try and get some of these properties back on the tax roll. So we hit the ground running with creating a strategic plan for how we wanted to move forward. What is the issue right now? So go back to my DEC or what was it? DCE. DCE. Go back
You're
to
really
my,
you're really gonna have to like.
I know, because I don't do it by the acronym, but okay, DCE. But just coming in and knowing that there wasn't there wasn't a framework for it yet, right? So we were starting from scratch, but we had a great team. We had an interdisciplinary team, which was amazing. And then we all came together and created a strategic plan for how we wanted to move forward, how we wanted to execute the legal process, what was already being done, what needed to happen different, and then taking that vision up to management and saying, this is how we see things, and having those conversations. And so that was the first thing that came to mind. Now, unfortunately, that team kind of faded away a little bit by no fault of our own. But yeah, I think we did a great job of laying the foundation and coming up with an amazing framework that could work if executed properly.
Mr. Lance, Mr. Scott, do you have anything else that you want to ask me before I ask members Grant and Warren?
I have 2 questions. If there was one community across the St. Louis region that you work in that has the trajectory of, real community-based development, particularly as it relates to housing, if you can identify one model community that, depicts that, what community would it be?
Spanish Lake.
Okay.
It would be Spanish Lake. They have a very active neighborhood association. And I think that is very important. When you have people who live in the neighborhood who can have a voice and speak on behalf of the residents, it's invaluable, right? And so those are the people that come to the table. And I've done good work in Spanish Lake. When I was handing out the Ring doorbell cameras, I purchased 200 Ring doorbell cameras to help increase safety in these neighborhoods so that people could have a visual of their home when they were away from their home. And you're talking about $100 device that people just can't afford, and now I'm giving it to you for free. Spanish Lake was the one community where I had so much community involvement and resident involvement in helping me pass things out that I think I probably gave more doorbells out in that community.
That's nice. Yeah. The last question. It could be any animal. What would that animal be?
An elephant.
Wow.
All right, tell us why.
I think he knows why. Well, first of all, an elephant is highly intelligent. And I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and the elephant is, one of our yeah, it's not a mascot, but people say that, but that's not what it is. But it's a representation of strength, intelligence, and determination. Leave it at that.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Joan Ivy, what questions come to mind for the 2 of you?
Jacob, when you asked your question, it was very all-inclusive, and I know Shantae answered it very well, all the different points you brought up, and I know from her participation and her leadership within the coalition for all those years, and I just admire her very much for all that she's done. And that there's no question in there, just a comment.
Thanks, Joan.
So, Shantae, I know it's been intertwined in a lot of what you've communicated today. But how has your personal and professional background prepared you to advocate for communities that have been historically disinvested, particularly those that are predominantly Black, low income, or otherwise underrepresented in development conversations?
Yeah, so that describes me and my family. I grew up on the west side of the city, or that's where I started. And then we moved to Genesis, like I said, 30 years. And then now I live in Hazelwood. I just purchased my first home in Hazelwood. So I'm still in North County. And so personally for me, this impacts my family. My family still live in those areas. I still live in these areas. And so, we are directly affected by what happens with this land bank. My grandmother's home, my grandfather's home, my aunt who just turned 70, and the vacant properties on her street that she complains about quite a bit in Jennings. So that's personal for me, and making sure that my family and my friends live in a thriving neighborhood. And then professionally, how it has prepared me, I was a social worker for many years before I went to school to become an attorney. I was a master's level social worker. And so I've come in contact with a lot of different people. And so one of the things that was common amongst all of those people was stable housing. Some people had it, some people did not, or the people that had it were at risk of losing it. And it impacted our entire process of working together. So they didn't feel safe, they didn't feel stable, they didn't feel secure. And so I couldn't help them with anything else until we figured out what to do about their housing situation. So professionally, my clients and the participants in the program that I've worked with have struggled with this issue for a very, very long time. And I think, now is the time for us to work to try and make things better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, prompts from board members? Seeing none, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Sure.
Is there anything that you want to know from us, or anything that we can answer?
Sure. I don't know I know you all are fairly new, but have you all discussed as to what your vision is for this actual board?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. We just started this week, and I think collectively we have stopped short of those sorts of questions till we had a full board. We wanted to add the 2 additional members so that we have a collaborative vision as far as how we go forward.
My answer on that is, I think out of us, I always speak for myself. I have sort of 2 visions. One, how does this work? Because I want to work with a group of folks that I feel that I can support and can support me. Folks that were collaborative and that we're working together and growing in the same direction. Also folks with whom I can have healthy disagreements with. And even if we disagree, and even whichever side of a vote that we fall on, that then after it's done, we say that's done, and then we walk out of that shoulder to shoulder, working as a team with the community. There's that. Then in bigger picture, or what I personally want to see is that in my role as an urban planner and as the director of planner for St. Louis County, one of the biggest work products that we've put together is the county's new comprehensive plan, St. Louis County 2050. Inside of it has a lot of goals that pertain to creating housing for all, creating safe and stable neighborhoods. And I see this organization, this board, this authority being a critical tool to help stabilize neighborhoods and to create vibrant, thriving neighborhoods. So those are my 2 sort of sides of that.
My individual vision would be all of these vacant houses that's plagued my community, and a reasonable, equitable solution is found that help with this this land bank.
Members Grant and Horn, do you have any comments you'd like to add to that?
I think our formal vision statement will be a part of this initial process, which is going to be so intense, is the vision statement. But I think the overall vision is to have this as one of the tools that the county has to improve the housing in some of our neighborhoods and improve the living conditions. And that's a long way off, but I think that's the overall goal of land banks all over the country, is to get these properties back into paying revenues instead of drawing and revenues and ruining neighborhoods. So that's an overall vision, but we've got a long way to go before we can get into the specifics like that.
Can the question be repeated, please?
And I think, so, Ms. Bird was asking us, like, what's our vision for the board and for where we see this organization going?
Oh, okay, great. Okay, for me, being in real estate 11 years, I was born and raised, well, not born and raised. So I went from North City to North St. Louis County, graduated from Hazelwood Central. So I've seen a shift in the landscape of real estate and properties in the North County area. So for me personally, just being able to get the properties back to productive use. Like right now, nationwide, we have an inventory and affordability issue. So being able to take derelict properties and put them back into active use, but then will also produce revenue back into the tax stream to then improve schools and everything else in the surrounding area. So just overall looking at it as how we support the community and how much impact can we truly make with what the land bank can actually produce for the neighborhoods and for the community of St. Louis County.
Thanks, Ms. Grant. I think that was great. Any final questions for us?
Yeah, just one last question. What do you all see as the biggest challenge that you all would face, that the board would face, in, kind of carrying out the vision?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
This somebody else asked the same question, but my biggest, not that I'm saying these are problems, but potential could be, if not handled, delicate. One being the necessary funding required to turn around so much derelict, vacant properties, right? But also thinking of like repair and or demolition, right? But then also the second problem that I potentially see existing is the back and forth between municipal governments, right? And like what exists now, like municipalities want these parcels, county wants these parcels, but how do we find the middle ground for the well-being of those communities? So those are the two things that I see being major challenges for us.
Me, I think it's a challenge, and it's that how quickly can we get ramped up and how quickly can we meet community expectations? Getting this board ramped up it's an exciting challenge, but it's going to require a lot of the members of this board, pouring some of the best of ourselves to bring this along. So. Anything you'd like to add from?
Yeah, this question was asked earlier. For me, coming from like the real estate background, understanding how liens pass with properties, even through judicial processes, making sure, especially being community-minded, community-centered, once we get the policies, procedures, everything up and going, on ensuring that properties are still warrantable beyond the judicial process, to make sure that these liens and certain liens and some things that they pass with the property are not then becoming another issue for people who want to help bring these properties back to life and making sure that it's just successful.
And as I had mentioned in an earlier context, I see a challenge is managing expectations and realizing that we do have to start slowly and build and have some success stories as we try to avoid some of the mistakes that have been made by other land banks. And we do have the ability to have a lot of experience from land banks all over the country that are pretty centralized at the community Center for Community Progress, and there'll be a lot of help for us there, and a lot of examples of bylaws and procedures and policies and so forth. So we're not starting with a blank piece of paper, but we do have some challenges, a lot of challenges ahead for us of getting going all together and managing the expectations of the communities and the population and the politicians out there that this is a tool. This is not the end all of what's needed for solving all the problems of housing in St. Louis County.
I appreciate it.
Add another E to my acronym, education. Yeah. DCEE. Yeah. But no, that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so excited about this board.
So one way or the other, either myself or one of the other members of the board will be reaching out to you tomorrow or early next week, no matter what happens. Because if you're willing to come and spend the time with us, we're going to make sure that we reach back out to you and let you chat with you about what our decision was. But no matter what, I hope that you will be here to help hold this board accountable. That's the greatest forward, no matter what happens.
Don't worry about that, Jacob. I sure will.
Ellen, would you escort
Thank
Ms.
you.
Bird
Bye.
out?
Good to meet you and good to see you again, John. Bye. All righty. I will text you.
Okay. Are we done, or should we have some discussion?
Well, I will leave that to board members. We can either adjourn for the day and leave all discussion to tomorrow. Or if the board would like to have some initial conversation, because our agenda was written in such a way that having some initial conversation about but we can't make it, no decisions are being made. It's more just about discussing what we heard.
Well, I would like to remind everybody, and we all already know this, but we do have to have an attorney. And we have two candidates as attorneys, and the one we just talked to just now, with her vast experience with this, with the coalition and with all the efforts that have been going on for, as she said, 5 years. I've only been involved with that for 3.5 or 4 years, but we do need one of the an attorney, and I think both of the attorney candidates here are were wonderful, really wonderful. But the Shantae that we just spoke to, I think, has a real edge just by her past participation and experience. After that, it's going to be very difficult to find member number 7. I think it's a real challenge for all of us. There's, as Jacob has said so often, there should be a lot of really, really great choices.
I know for me personally, I have one top person. Basically it's a perfect pyramid. I have one top person, then I have two people, like 2 in the number 2 slot, and then I have 3 in the number 3 slot. That's my personal, and I don't know whether I really want to say who falls into those positions for me, but that's kind of where I am. I mean, we heard a lot today. We absolutely heard a lot today. So tomorrow when we meet, the first thing that we're going to do is the first sort of motion on the floor will be to make a decision on how we will make these appointments. And we'll work together as a board before we even dive in to discussing the merits of these individuals. We'll agree to how we will nominate them and approve them. Once we have that decision made of how we will approve them, then we will enter into our deliberations to make those decisions. But I don't know.
Are
Go
you
ahead,
saying that we will decide whether we're just going to vote or whether we make nominations or.
Yeah, right, exactly. We'll want to first set us whatever our standard will be, whether we just do them one by one or whether we do a slate. We'll first want to agree to that. Then once we agree to how we want to put the people up, then we will, then we'll act. I mean, is there anything else that we want to?
Well, I guess I was wondering, how do I phrase this? We have two attorneys.
Yep.
Are we picking just one of them?
No, we can have two if we want. There's nothing that says we can't.
But we also had two really strong bankers.
We did. That's why it's a tough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough.
These bankers.
Yeah.
Yeah. One is around. But I think,
So I think we're talking, one of those individuals is in my number 2 slot. That's just like,
yeah. But what?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to get a feel for what the other members thought as far as how we're. I mean,
I'm balanced.
you had 6 really well qualified.
We did.
Individuals that I think a couple of them, quite honestly, for me, a couple of them really rose to the top.
Yep.
Real quickly.
Yep.
And a couple of them.
And for me, the pyramid were the sort of for me, there were 3 at the sort of but again, I want to state that any of the 6 of them would be great. So that's so for me, I'm also like the 2 attorneys and the two bankers are the sort of the 4 in my universe.
Yeah, mine.
Then I will say out of the 2 bankers, I have one that I prefer over the other, just based on today's conversation. And then I will say the 2 attorneys are in mine. So 1, 2, and 3 kind of in my. So it's
I just, part of it's somewhat self-serving because I really need to be out of here by 11:30.
Oh, I'm hopeful that it will not take us that long.
Yeah, and so I was just hoping we could have a little bit of a jump on that conversation.
So in my opinion, so Ivy, knowing that we are the 4-term members, and knowing that you have a background in real estate itself, real estate broker and real estate, understand the housing, selling and buying and all of that stuff with the housing market. I think that by you being on the board, plus with you being here 4 years, I think that the other 2 individuals that came with the real estate experience, like Janelle and also Terry. I think that, the experience may be different, but the background and the profession is the same. So I would comfortably say exclude those 2, in my opinion. That's just my personal position, knowing that we have Ivy on our team here. Now, if we didn't have Ivy, I'd be like, we need one of these.
Well, those were the 2. I hate to put it this way, those were the 2 at the bottom of my list.
Yeah. And this doesn't discount
Absolutely not.
their
They're
work.
stellar
value.
qualifications.
Absolutely.
They're absolutely stellar qualifications.
But it's a tough decision.
Yeah.
It's me.
Ivy, Joan, do you have any initial thoughts on, because I will say I am also in alignment with Barry and Farrakhan in that we could actively, I think if we're largely in agreement, then we're in a universe of 4. If you 2 are also have similar thought processes.
Right. And I was thinking, since Barry is busy tomorrow, what is the chance that we could figure this out?
Well, we did not advertise it today we advertised the agenda. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't get all the way to the edge, and then tomorrow we can also agree to, if for ease, if we have a robust conversation today, to move the final decision to an online meeting tomorrow.
Well, I'm good till
Let me
11:30.
rephrase that because I need to think about the agenda, how we advertise that agenda.
Ivy, I'm good till 11:30 tomorrow.
Okay, okay, perfect. I think I'm with you all too. It is a very difficult decision. I can say my first thoughts, both attorneys are very good, and I know that that is definitely going to be the area that we support in. And I do think Karen, so her wealth of knowledge in finance and development specifically and governance, I think is going to be very helpful as we get into that, and the fact that she practices that law on a day-to-day.
I was really impressed with Karen. I don't want to mistake that. I was also highly impressed. I'm highly impressed by Shantae. That's where my struggle is, how to pick two out of my top three is where I'm struggling. Because, so here's my next question. If we generally concur that our universe right this second is now 4 members, Crystal, Karen, Christina, and Shantae. If we set the 2 attorneys aside, and we're now, the universe is Crystal and Christina, do either of those 2 out of those 2, can we cut it down to a universe of 3? If there's a general sort of consensus on those 2 candidates.
Well, as far as the attorneys, just something that immediately came to my mind that I think will help us get to your point. But Ms. Karen, she's a managing partner.
She is.
Which
It's a big deal.
to me, in my perspective, it's that in itself, on top of what she might be doing, in addition to all of the other stuff, that is a heavy responsibility, right? Which means that I was wondering about, the time commitment, the workload, the availability.
Oh, you're thinking that she's gonna be too busy to?
That's what I think. And even if she sit here and say that I'm not too busy, okay, are we putting this burden on you?
Yeah.
And you just graciously taking this burden, then I would feel some kind of way because we're putting a burden on her. But as far as Shantae is concerned, I think that she's familiar and she's currently operating in this kind of space. And when she emphasized that she does family law, that's a totally different weight capacity, in my opinion, from a managing partner of a law firm versus just being in family law. Like the availability could be different. And also they can go into, like, in my opinion, how cordial you are with people that are fast paced, slow paced, people that are just, understand things different.
Karen's expertise is right in our wheelhouse.
See, and that's where I appreciate the second part. I appreciate the second part. I understand. The first part, I'm going to go in that any person that we appoint and offer, well, someone can back out saying absolutely, I whatever. But I'm also believing that these individuals have made a decision that this is something that they're doing. So I don't necessarily want to make my decision based. I'm not personally going to make my decision based on, because I'm assuming that every 6 of these people was willing to make that time.
I will express my top 2, and I'm willing to be changed with our further discussion tomorrow, but my top 2 would be Crystal and Shantae. And as I said, that's 75% of the way there, but willing to hear other opinions tomorrow.
I appreciate that, Kelly. All right. Why have I done that now twice, Joe? I'm sorry.
I don't know, Jacob.
I appreciate that. And it's funny because my top 3 are Christina, Karen, and Shantae. I really liked Christina. I felt like there was just something about how, and how calm Christina was that I really appreciated. And not that Crystal wasn't calm. There was just something about the way that she answered questions that I really liked, which I know that's so vague, right? Also the fact that she's now getting a PhD in, what did she say? She's getting it, her in economic mobility, I thought was pretty impressive, especially in taking a lens to the banking sector where she spends her life and what are the ways that the banking sector has exacerbated and helped create the problems that exist now. I liked that.
Christina was my number one choice.
Yeah. I realized and that's where if I setting aside Karen and Shante, if I was choosing, I liked Christina in that space of being a community banker. She was the one that rose for me personally. But kind of like Joan, I'm also not like, I'm not sitting here like I'm not yet planting my flag in the ground. That's why it's also, I want to go home, sleep on it, let my sleeping brain sort of pull some of these things together.
And I wanted to have the discussion today so that I had time to think about what others had to say this evening and come in tomorrow. And I put the two attorneys, Shante and Karen, together, and my other two were Christina and Crystal. And Christina was my number one there, and Karen was my number one as far as attorneys. I just think her expertise, what she does day in and day out, is right north of the house.
I think there's a lot of value. I was also with the answer that Karen gave about helping stand up organizations from the beginning is also a skill set that I think is really valuable to us. But again, we can have two attorneys. This is not this does not have to be a one attorney board. Can't we have three appointments? Can't this be a board of 8?
I wanted to add to that.
Uh-oh, you're breaking up, but we've lost. No, maybe we've totally
can you
lost
hear me?
you. Oh, now we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was saying, I think between Crystal and Christina, that's a very difficult choice. But then going back to Karen, not only is she an attorney, but she also has that financial piece as well when it comes to structuring deals. So that may be a way that we can get the financial aspect, but also the legal aspect, along with Shante has the community piece as well, that I think I heard a lot of the candidates talk, which is very important with representation and community connections. And so then Shante has the legal aspect, but also the community relationships, so that may be a way to get both into the space.
That's also true. That's a good point, that's a good point to consider.
So you're advocating for the two attorneys?
I would say if I could choose 4 top, it would be all 4 of them, but
so the flag is halfway up the mast for the two attorneys with, none of us have to, we can walk in tomorrow and.
Well, it is really helpful because I think about it.
Right.
Did someone question Karen's ability in the time, not her ability, period, but her time involvement because of the responsibility she has with her firm? Didn't someone bring that up? Farrakhan, did you? Yeah. And is that a consideration?
Well, I mean, anything can be a consideration.
Right.
And this is just
Jacob, I think I'm with you on that too. I think we all may be busy in our prospective roles, but we make time for what's important to us. And I don't think they would be here or have interviewed if they can't manage their own schedule accordingly. So
I think that's very well said.
Yeah, I think we just have to assume that folks are giving them noble intent around what they're here, they're saying they can commit, we commit.
Yeah, but if Karen is representing, and I'm okay with either one, but if she's involved in multiple municipalities for her own job, that in itself could expose conflicts that she may not, or we may not be aware of until possibly just comes up, because she mentioned part of her job is municipalities closing deals with municipalities, developments and developers in these municipalities and things of that nature. So
And that's where it's going to be incredibly important for each of the 7 of us. It's going to be less hard for me, right? Because I'm an urban, like this is, but the folks that are in the actual sandbox of the deal making, it's going to be incredibly important for them to recuse themselves. I mean, that's how a lot of the ethical obligations of each of us as individual members is, it is incumbent upon. Now, if we as a board say, well, I don't want to name any, say, member X has, not disclosed, but it comes to our attention, then we engage in disciplinary action, up to and including removal from the board, and in compliance with whatever rules and bylaws we eventually adopt. And that's where it's having individuals with that experience is always going to mean that there's always going to be times where she or he or they may say, in this case, guys, folks, I'm going to need to recuse myself.
she forgive me.
My only concern with Christina was that if she runs for city council,
That's right.
but running is different than getting elected.
That's right.
If she got elected,
He would, and then she would be replaced in the same manner that she would be replaced by the board.
she was by far my number one.
By far, okay?
Yeah.
And we've got 7 members. So if an individual has to recuse themselves from any one item, it's fine. Even if 2 members need to recuse themselves, 5 is still sufficient. 4, depending on how we write our bylaws, will be, but I mean, even with 7, we should be able to and it should be occasional. If someone's like recusing themselves over and over again, that says something.
We have I thought she was very thoughtful. That was the work that I wrote down. I thought she was very thoughtful.
Well, do we want to keep at this, or it sounds like our universe has coalesced to a 3-4-3, Shantae, Karen, Christina. Does that, but even tomorrow, we don't, this is not like we're voting people off or anything today, 3-ish, 4-ish people, it sounds like where we are. Is there any, would the board like to continue having discussion, or would we like to?
I'm all right leaving. I'll just put this, I'm all right leaving where it is now and pulling it over this evening and then coming back fresh tomorrow.
Okay.
And hearing what others have to say.
Okay. Things I may want, think about who our number 1s are, because I have a number 1 who is different than your numbers, right? But my number 2, I think I was hopeful that we would get to this kind of place where it would be, you could see there was already some gradation, that we weren't like, we'd had a shared experience of what we'd hoped seeing out of folks. Anything to close us, Mr. Skag? No. What about you, Ms. Grant? Any comments for the evening?
No, thank you.
Member Horn, anything additional for you before I would?
As you said, maybe I'll sleep on it, and who knows what'll happen during our dreams. We may have great inspiration in our dreams.
Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for today.
So
Is there a
So
second? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We are adjourned at 3:24 p.m. until tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Thanks,
See you all
Jacob,
in the
for all your
morning.
work.
Thanks. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
this worked out well.